This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm here with pastry chef Nicholas Patterson, all the way from the Shangri-La, the Shard, London, United Kingdom. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well, thanks.
Now, what brings you to Toronto?
I'm here to do a promotion for afternoon tea. We've tried to do a style of afternoon tea which is popular over in the United Kingdom. Afternoon tea itself is a series of courses of savoury sandwiches, scones, warm scones served with cream and jam. Usually it's served with either a Cornish or a Devonshire style cream, and these are very, very rich, very fatty creams. And then the final course is a selection of cakes and pastries. So I've tried to bring influences from the UK in terms of the style, in terms of the look.
How would you describe your own personal style and technique, chef?
My style is, I would say it's more French style than English style. At an early age, once I moved to London to work in London, I was very, very influenced by French style patisserie. I was working in hotels where French patisserie was being done. However, it wasn't being done by French people, it was being done by English people. So it's our interpretation of what French patisserie is like.
Now, when and why did you become a pastry chef?
I don't have an exact kind of reason for starting as a pastry chef. I think some things stem from childhood. My mum always baked at home. My brother's a baker. He's actually a bread baker. But my mum always baked at home, made cakes at home. So it was always a big part of our life, in a way. Subconsciously, perhaps it's kind of gone in a little bit. My first cookery book that I ever bought was a pastry book. But every Christmas, every birthday, I was always asking for kitchen tools, so chopping knives, cleavers, all those kind of things. And then when I was at catering college, you studied a general catering course, and you did a couple of lessons a week of pastry, but it was never really pushed as a career. And it wasn't until my first job in the industry when I started in a hotel and they said we need somebody for the pastry kitchen, as a commis chef. There was already a head pastry chef and sous chef and so on. And I said, great, fine, no problem. And I just loved it from day one. Other students that graduated with me and were in the same kitchen, they were peeling potatoes, picking beans, and I was making chocolates, I was doing service, I was making bread, and it was just great. I was doing so many more interesting things, and it just stuck from there, really.
How do you feel about the current British obsession with baking, and how that manifests itself through tabloid coverage, reality TV shows and the like, and the Great British Bake Off being the perfect example of that?
Well, British Bake Off, I think, has done really good things for people wanting to actually get interested in baking. I don't necessarily know whether or not it's actually done anything to help the hotel and catering industry. It's much more designed around a home baker, although as the series progresses, their things do start to get a little bit more complicated and a little bit more in depth. The last series, I think they were making macaroons and things like that, which is quite an advanced technique for somebody at home to be doing without really a lot of experience. But one thing I've noticed on British Bake Off is that they are using the actual people that are coming to do the competition. They are turning up with some professional pieces of equipment. I mean, I've seen people with cocoa butter spray cans, with the Flexipan rubber molds now and things like that they're using. So those people are obviously aware of what is available professionally. And then obviously, they're very keen amateurs, but I'm not sure how it has really benefited the professional industry. Hopefully, from a younger generation maybe watching it, it might get them interested in cooking and and look at another avenue for them to realise that it's not just cooking at home, you can do it for a career as well.
What advice would you give anyone who is considering a career as a pastry chef?
My first piece of advice would be to go to school and to study full-time at school first. That's my first piece of advice. Rather than do it work and studying, because sometimes work can start to take over from studying and you start to miss your studies. And you also get a lot of the technical information at school that perhaps working With a pastry chef, they may not have that technical knowledge, depending upon who it is. So you can gain some foundation stones for you to actually build on later on and fall back on that knowledge as you progress. After that, my advice would be to aim high. You know, there's no point going to work in a small little restaurant where you have to double up as the starter chef and you're on your own. You need to work with people that are going to show you and teach you and guide you. Many pastry chefs make a mistake of taking a job where they graduate from a school or whatever, and then they go straight in and they are in charge of the pastry kitchen. It's maybe a small restaurant. You don't have enough experience. Your palate isn't ready. You are not ready to be organized enough to be able to do those things. And then if you start your career like that, 5 years later, you'll find it very difficult to actually move up into perhaps a higher bracket of establishment, because you won't have those 5 years of really good solid foundation working somewhere.
So, looking at the role of the pastry chef in the contemporary kitchen, in many smaller restaurants you can see, because of budgetary constraints, the pastry chef often being doubled up with the garde-manger, or in some cases being got rid of altogether and the desserts being outsourced. So some people have said that the role of the pastry chef is in many ways dying. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that in a high-end Michelin star kind of establishment, whether it's a restaurant on its own or it's a restaurant within a hotel, I think there'll always be a need for the pastry chef. I think it's perhaps in some more smaller, privately owned places, perhaps where the head chef is the owner. Generally, they have experience from pastry, or they want their own desserts on the menus. And so in some cases, yes, perhaps it's not absolutely necessary that they employ a full-time pastry chef or a head pastry chef to be able to create the ideas when they're doing the creation themselves. They just need somebody to execute it. So perhaps a chef de partie is a good option for them in terms of a food and a labour cost.
Chef Nicholas Patterson, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today at Good Food Revolution.
Thank you.